Hey everybody, and welcome to Ape Nation, your number one source for all things Planet of the Apes on YouTube. My name is Josh, and today we're doing things a little bit differently, a little bit more relaxed, a little more chill. No movie news or movies or reviews or anything to break down or anything like that. As a thank you to all of you who have been watching, liking, commenting, and been subscribed to my channel, whether it be from the very beginning when I started or if you just jumped on board recently, and for helping me officially reach 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And actually, as of the time I'm recording this, it's actually already almost at 11,000. I am answering all of your questions. I put up a post earlier this week on the channel asking you all to submit whatever comments or questions you wanted for me to read and respond to in a video. So that is what we are going to do today. I will say I do know that there are a lot of people that submitted questions and comments after the deadline that I said that I needed them submitted by. So if your question doesn't get answered or your comment doesn't get responded to, that is probably the reason why. So if that is the case, I'm very sorry, but I will probably be doing one of these again in the future. Just depends on when I hit my next milestone. I don't even know what that will be, but don't worry, you will have another opportunity to do this. But for the time being, I'm just going to dive right in to all of these questions. So I've divided these questions into two sections. The first section is going to be all Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes related. So if you haven't seen the movie, you can just skip ahead to the next section of the video that will not have any Kingdom related questions, so there won't be any spoilers. This section of the video will have Kingdom spoilers, so just as a heads up, you have been warned. But I'm going to dive right in and start with the first question. Do you think in future installments of this trilogy we'll actually finally get the war between apes and humans based on the ending of Kingdom? Yes, I will say I do think we will see more of a straight up battle between apes and humans. Maybe not in the next movie, but probably in the third movie. I do think the way the movie ends definitely alludes to that. I don't think it's a guarantee. I definitely think we could be subverted in a way again, but I think there's actually a better chance of seeing it in this trilogy than there was in the last trilogy. So I definitely think it's something that they are building towards, but I could be wrong. Do you think Maya will return in the sequels? Seems like they set her character up to return, but the past films have a tradition of getting new human characters in each movie. Thoughts? I do think she's going to return. Westball even said so much when I interviewed him that by the end of this movie, it is both Noah and May's story. So yes, I do think she's going to return. I think she'll probably have an even more prominent role and maybe a bigger arc and a little more development in the next movie. What that's actually going to be, I don't know. It's still way too early to tell, but yeah, I definitely think May's going to come back, and I'm really excited to see her come back because on second viewing of the movie, it really made me appreciate her character more and the ambiguity and the kind of up in the airness of where she's going to go. So I'm really fascinated by where they're going to go with her. So yes, I do think she's going to come back, and I am excited to see her come back. Do you think Proximus was an awesome villain in the film? I do think Proximus was an awesome villain in the film. I think he was a little underutilized, as I said in my review. I don't necessarily think his ending lands as strongly as it should have, but for what he does and for what he does get to do, he's awesome. I think he's really menacing. I think he's got this fun charisma that Kevin Durant brings to the table. He's kind of sadistic, and he reminds me a bit of Koba in some aspects, but he's very different from Koba in other aspects. I don't think he's as cruel as Koba, and I don't think he's as tortured as Koba, so I don't think it gives him as much depth, but I think he has some of those same mannerisms, but he's also a bit more maniacal, and I think he's a bit more fun of a character. So I think he's a really great villain, and I think he's really fun. There's a part of me that wants to see him come back just because I think there's more to explore with the character, but I'm also someone who doesn't necessarily love when they bring back dead characters, so I'm torn on if I want him to return or not, but I do think he's a great character, and I think he's an awesome villain. What's your opinion on the lack of orangutans and gorillas in Kingdom? Do you think they're setting up topics such as race and class divide similar to the originals? I don't know if they're necessarily setting up race and class divide similar to the original movies. It's definitely something that I would like to see them explore. I don't know if it's late enough in the timeline to start exploring that kind of stuff yet, or if that stuff will start to become a thing, but it's a possibility. And yeah, there's a complete lack of orangutans outside of Raqqa and gorillas outside of Silva, and I think there's one or two other warrior gorillas that are fighting for Proximus, but there really is not any diversity aside from chimpanzees and some bonobos. So I'm definitely hoping that we get to see more diversity when it comes to types of apes in the next few movies, but I don't know necessarily if that's what they're setting up, but it would definitely be something I'm all for. As always, I love when these movies hold up a mirror to society, so I think that would be something that I would be very interested in seeing. So yeah, I think that would be something that would be interesting to see going forward. Do we think there's a particular reason that the human that May hands the disc to was wearing a containment suit? Maybe only some humans remaining are resistant to the virus. If there's a human versus apes war, the virus taking out some of the humans could be a way for the apes to level the playing field against human weapons. Yeah, that's definitely a possible theory. As for why they're actually wearing containment suits, my guess is that's just because what they've become accustomed to over the years. They just don't take any precautions. They just stay in that facility and they do not leave unless they absolutely have to. And anytime they do, they wear containment suits. I mean, I would imagine that the virus is gone by now. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe it's still around. And like you said, maybe only some humans remaining are resistant to the virus. So I don't know. I generally don't have the answers, but I'm very curious to see how that's going to be explored. I think the whole virus situation is interesting just because it's been so many years. So you'd think it would have been kind of mutated out of existence by now, but I don't know. It's definitely something that they're going to have to answer. It's definitely something they're going to have to explore in the next movie regarding the virus and human immunity. But for the time being, yeah, I think if there is a human ape war, that is definitely something that could be brought into the equation and could be used to the ape's advantage for sure. Did you like how Proximus met his demise? Do you think he is still alive? How did you feel about how much the apes progressed in speech? How do you feel knowing intelligent humans still exist in the franchise? All right, I will answer one question at a time here. So Proximus meeting his demise. I think the way he met his demise, the way he died, the whole scene at the end with the eagles and Noah taking him down with them, I loved the scene itself. I just wish there was more buildup to him with Proximus. So when it actually happens, it didn't quite hit me as hard as I wanted it to. But I do think the actual scene itself and how he dies is cool, and I did think it was a good way to do it. As for if he is still alive, I think there's a chance. I think there's a solid chance that he is still out there. We don't see a body, and I know this isn't like a comic book movie or anything where that's kind of the rule, where if you don't see a body, it means they could probably still come back. At the end of the day, they did just show him falling into the water, so I don't know. They did not show him actually die, but I think there's a chance. I do think there's a chance he's still alive, and if he is, I think he comes back at the end of the next movie. How did you feel about how much the apes progressed in speech? I really liked that. That was actually one of the things I talked about in my spoiler review, was the development of ape language and ape society and their intelligence. I think their speech is exactly where it needs to be, and I think you can definitely tell there are certain apes that are more intelligent and are more knowledgeable about English language, and others like the Eagle Clan who are a little more primitive. But I like that we're seeing that progress, and it's not so far in the future where they're just having full-on fluent English conversations that are just complete non-broken English. I like that there's still that slightly bit of broken English throughout, but it is a much farther progression than what we had in Rise, Dawn, and War. And then how do you feel knowing intelligent humans still exist in the franchise? I like it. I've seen some people that aren't into it, that think it's stupid, that think all the humans should be completely wiped out by now. I don't agree. I mean, there are literally billions of humans on the planet. I don't think it's far-fetched at all to assume that at least, a handful of them survived the virus and are still out there just in the shadows, living their lives quietly, just trying to survive day to day. How exactly that came to be, how they ended up where they are, I don't know, but I'm hopeful that we'll get some answers to those questions. But yeah, I like that there are intelligent humans out there. I think that adds something interesting. It kind of brings almost like a fish out of water element to the story, where we're going to see humans that are in this post-apocalyptic world that maybe necessarily are similar to Noah and don't even know what the outside world is like. They just know maybe some sheltered indoor life that whoever they've been living with, like what we learned from May, that her mother taught her that silence is survival. So I'm curious if we'll get to see that explored a bit more. But yeah, I like that there are intelligent humans out there. I think it definitely opens up some wider possibilities and opportunities for where they could go. So yeah, I think it was a really good choice. Do you think that the 300-year time jump was really needed if at the end of Kingdom it was revealed that there's still a whole civilization of humans that can still talk and use technology perfectly fine and are smarter than apes? Yes, like I said before, I don't see why it's an issue that a 300-year time jump still has intelligent humans out there, especially because they are so isolated and there's just tiny pockets of them all over the world. Like, they still have the problem of they need to come together and unite, and if they can't do that, they're just going to be out there. And also, something that I haven't really seen too many people mention is that there was never any guarantee that humans in the original Planet of the Apes movie, there were no intelligent humans out there. I mean, you even hear Dr. Zaius say, where there's one mutant, there's probably another and another and another, which means there could have been other intelligent humans like Taylor out there. Do I think there were? Probably not, because that was, another 2,000 years farther in the future. But I don't think it's really that much of a stretch to think that intelligent humans could still be around 300 years later. Now, 1,000 years later, then you run into some real questions. But considering how long until apes are really going to be thriving and really running the planet, I think having intelligent humans 300 years later is perfectly fine, and it doesn't break anything, and it makes sense for the most part to me. But that's just me. Based on where you think they could take the next movie, what title would you give it, and what plot would you like to see be explored? Doesn't have to be super detailed, but do you have any ideas as a fan? I do have ideas as a fan. There's a video I want to do talking about possible titles for the next movie, so I don't know off the top of my head what the title should be, but there are some ideas I've heard. I've heard Secrets of the Planet of the Apes is one that I thought of that it's kind of cheesy, but I thought might fit as Revenge of the Planet of the Apes. But I can't come up with a title until I know what the story's about. But as far as what the story is going to be, I definitely think it's going to start exploring the potential of the humans banding together and uprising against the apes, and how Noah and how May deal with that, and the morality and the ethics that come along with those decisions that are going to have to be made. And I think they can do it in a way that's new and different and isn't just rehashing what we already saw in Dawn, because with Dawn, it was really just humans trying to survive, and then one ape led it to war. So I don't necessarily think we're going to see rehashing ideas. I think we'll definitely see history kind of repeating itself in some ways, but I think it's going to end much differently than it did last time. So I don't know what exactly a full-on plot would be, but I definitely think those are some of the ideas that they could explore. I also think they're going to just continue the further development of Noah, Suna, and Anaya and their friendship, and Noah and Suna's relationship, and Noah and May's relationship, whatever that is. So I think those are all the things that are going to be explored. In what way and how and the ins and outs of all that, I don't know for sure, but I definitely think those are some of the things that they're going to explore in the future movies. What direction after the ending do you think the movies will go? Do you think the rebooted series will end with a happy, positive ending or a dark, disturbing ending like the originals? If you could write an ape character, how would you make them? How do I think they'll end? Honestly, I really don't know, and I won't be able to really tell until we get the next movie, but if I had to guess, it'll be kind of an in-between, similar to how War ended and similar to how Battle ended. When you look at the end of each of these franchises, Battle ends in a way where the apes and humans are now living harmoniously together, but are they? There's kind of a question mark about if they are actually going to be able to keep that peace. So it's kind of an in-between. And same with War, Caesar gets his people to safety. In a way, they kind of beat the humans, but Caesar dies in the process, and it's kind of a sad, tragic ending. So I think this will kind of have a similar thing where it's not going to be a happy, super positive ending, but it's not going to be a dark and depressing ending that is like the end of the planet or something like Beneath the Planet of the Apes or anything like that. So I think they'll find a middle ground. What exactly that middle ground will be, I don't necessarily know. My guess is it could end with nuclear war and the not end of the planet, but the true end of the human race, and how Noah and May and other characters wrestle with that and what that means. So I definitely think that is something that could be in play, but again, I'm not 100% sure. And if you could write an ape character, how would you make them? It's kind of a big question, and I'm not really sure. I mean, it would really just depend on the story that I'm trying to tell. But if I could write an ape character, you know what? I'm a big fan of tragic villains. So if we could just get another character that is similar to Koba, but I think even more relatable, and maybe see him go on a journey to become a villain, I think that would be something that I'd be interested in seeing, but do it in a way that's different from Koba. So that's something I want to see, just maybe just another tragic villain character in some kind of way. Do you think Proximus Caesar will return? Will Rocca come back because of the breathing and the credits? As for Proximus Caesar, like I said before, I think there's a chance. I don't know. Honestly, I think it's a coin flip as to whether he's going to return or not. And then with Rocca, yes, Rocca I think is coming back 100%. Like I've said in my review, he's too good of a character to not bring back. And his relationship to Noah and his importance to Noah and his significance to Noah's story, I think is very important. And in a way, he kind of reminds me of Gandalf, where we lose him, but he could come back in some big reveal in the second movie and then be a big player in the third. So I don't know. Do I think it's a guarantee? No, but I'd be willing to bet that he comes back, and I'd be very happy if he did, because I loved him in the movie and I'd love to see more of him in the trilogy. I actually like how the apes are progressing in this series, becoming the second most intelligent species on the planet besides humans, or those humans who haven't contracted the virus, developing their own culture, society, and nations. I'm looking forward to seeing the sequels. I am also looking forward to seeing the sequels, and yeah, that's another thing I'm looking forward to, is seeing more of those ape cultures and ape societies developed and further explored, and getting to learn more about them and see them that we haven't seen, the ones that we haven't seen before. I think that's really exciting. And yeah, I also like how the apes are progressing. I think the progression of the ape characters and the intelligence of them, it feels very natural. It feels very authentic to what we know from those first three movies and the pace of how they played out. And so overall, yeah, I agree. I do think that it's one of the highlights. I think the way the apes have been brought forward since Rise, Dawn, and War has been smart, and I like the way they're going about it. Do you think it would be a neat idea in future movies to show the social tension between the different ape species? In Kingdom, we mostly saw chimps and Raka mention that this tribe was attacked by Proxima Caesar, which if they were also orangutans, maybe this implied that chimps, gorillas, and orangutans aren't as close as they once were. Someone kind of asked a similar question earlier, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Like I said, I would love to see it. It's an idea that has been present since the original movie, and it's one that I would love to see explored. I think it's an interesting idea. I think it continues to ask important questions that are relevant to our society today. So I definitely think that is something that could be explored in future movies. I don't necessarily know if they will, just because I don't know exactly where they're going yet. But I think once we have an idea of where the second movie's going, we'll have a better idea about kind of what themes they're going to be exploring, if this is something that's going to be a part of it. So I think it's definitely possible, but it's too early to tell. Other than for help climbing up the cliff, why did May need Noah? Inside that large bunker, May seemed to know precisely where to find the hard drive. Also, as soon as the intelligent humans installed it, it literally took 2 seconds for them to make contact with other humans. I don't really see what the issue there is, why that has anything to do with the May. I don't know why it wouldn't take 2 seconds for them. It seemed like it was kind of like the last piece of the puzzle they needed. Also, it's one of those things where it's sci-fi. They're not going to overly explain the device. It's just, we need this because this is the last thing that we need in order to achieve this mission. That's just how a lot of these big sci-fi movies work. It worked for me. I don't really care that it took 2 seconds for them to make contact with other humans. That was the one thing they needed for their machine to operate properly, and there are other humans out there waiting for that at the same time, so that didn't really bother me at all. And then as for other than helping climb up the cliff, why did May need Noah? Honestly, I just took it as she needed protection. She just wanted an ape to help her get there. She wanted to get there with an ape. I think with just a human going to there by herself, she's dead on arrival. Going there with an ape might be better assistance. I don't know exactly for sure, but that's just how I read it, which is perfectly fine with me. But yeah, that's the way I took it, especially since he had that weapon. If you had gotten the chance to change the ending of Kingdom, what would you have changed? Love the work, love the channel, and congratulations. Thank you so much. If you had gotten the chance to change the ending, I don't know if I would have changed anything much, really. I actually really loved the ending as is. Truthfully, the only thing I really would have changed is adding Anaya to the ending. I don't know why Noah and Suna go off alone. I mean, I understand that they're more of a couple now, but still, I would have liked to see the three of them looking at the telescope together as a trio. But other than that, no, I think the ending as is great. I really enjoyed it. It got me excited to see where they're going, and I thought it wraps up this story in a way that is satisfying, but also opens the doors for more possibilities. So yeah, I think it's a solid ending as is, and I don't really think I would have changed all that much. Will Wes Ball continue with the rest of the trilogy as a director or end up being a producer/consultant? He is going to have his hands full with Legend of Zelda, so there is a possibility he may not come back as director if the studio wants to get the new trilogy going. I wouldn't even mind if another great director stepped in as long as they honored what Wes was setting for the story and characters for the next 2 installments. I agree. I actually made a video a while back about my top 10 directors who I would love to see do a Planet of the Apes movie. I will say this, as I've thought about it more and more, I don't think Wes Ball is going to do this movie. I don't think he's going to do the second and third movie. I do think he's going to step back and be more of a producer and consultant, and someone else is going to step in. But as with the last trilogy, as long as Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver continue to be involved in a very key creative way, and I think Josh Friedman will also be involved as the writer as well. So as long as they all continue to stay on board and they're part of the story team and they know where this is going, and as long as Wes Ball stays on as producer or even just is a consultant, kind of the way Matt Reeves consulted him on this movie, I definitely think that we would be fine if we get another director. It really depends on who the director is. I don't know who they would get. I mean, my pick is Ryan Coogler. I think Ryan Coogler is one of the most perfect picks you could get for a movie of this scale and a movie that has these ideas and themes that it explores, and also just having great characters and great villains and telling big stories and, you know, making things look incredible. So I think he'd be my pick. But there was another pick I saw that was actually on the shortlist to direct Dawn of the Planet of the Apes way back in the day, and that was J.A. Bayona. And that is someone that I would also think would be a really great pick for a movie like this. But there's there's a ton of directors that could do this movie. I think, personally speaking, there is no better person to do these movies than I think James Cameron. He's the person I would want to do these movies, but that will never happen because he is doing the next 17 Avatar movies until the end of time. So that will never happen. But yeah, I think there's a lot of directors that could step in and do a great job. People were worried when Wes Ball came in just because he was the Maze Runner guy, and he ended up doing a great job. So at this point, I think doubting whatever director they choose is kind of just silly. Whoever they end up choosing, I'm sure will be a good pick. And if it is Wes Ball who gets to do the next one, that would be awesome too. But I just don't think he's going to be able to do both of these movies unless Zelda gets pushed back another 2 or 3 years, which is definitely possible because a Legend of Zelda movie is something that I feel like has been in development for like over a decade now. So for all we know, he could just be the director that's working on it right now, but then ends up dropping out and someone else takes over. So all these kinds of things are always up in the air. You never know how it's actually going to go. So, but yeah, I don't think he's going to do it. If he is doing Zelda, then I don't think he's going to do the next Apes movie, but if he is, that would be great. Do you think Noah will be more like Caesar in future movies? Depends on what you mean. If you just mean like taking him on this very Moses-like journey, then no, I don't think he's going to have that same kind of trajectory. But as far as just having a really strong hero's journey that sees him become more of a leader and more of a prominent figure in ape history, I definitely think it's possible. And that would be a really cool direction to take him. I made this comparison in my spoiler review, but I also kind of just see him as more of a Frodo Baggins from Lord of the Rings type of character, where he is the central figure of a larger story going on around him, and he is a key player in it, but that doesn't necessarily make him like the guy. So I don't know. I definitely think it's possible, but it depends on the story they tell. It depends on what they want to do with some of the other characters. So we'll see. They're obviously alluding to the astronauts at the end of Kingdom. I don't agree. I don't think they're obviously alluding to the astronauts at all. I've seen some people say this, so I guess I understand it a little bit, but I don't think it's obviously doing that at all. But do you think they're going to bring them earlier than the original thought, or do you think they're just going to keep teasing them for the end of the trilogy? No, I don't think they're bringing them in this trilogy. I really don't. I keep seeing people saying, oh, they see astronauts in the telescope. I don't think at all that's what they're seeing. If they were, then we probably would have seen what they're seeing. I mean, they might tease them more. They might start doing some more teasing with them for sure. But no, I don't think we're going to see the astronauts in this trilogy. If they get to a third trilogy, then I think that's definitely possible. I think we see them in the third trilogy. But in this one, no, I don't think that we see them in this next movie or even the third movie after that. Do you think Raka and Proximus are dead? I've answered this question a few times already, but Raka, no, I don't think he's dead. Proximus, I think it's a 50-50 shot. But yeah, I would love to see both of them come back, but I think Raka is more of a guarantee than Proximus. Question 1, do you think Proximus and Raka are truly dead? I just answered this question, but no, I don't. Raka is truly dead, but Proximus maybe. The end credit ape call tells me otherwise, but they did the same thing in Dawn with Koba, and plus I want to see more of Proximus. Yeah, they did do the same thing with Koba at the end of Dawn, and it ultimately didn't go anywhere. The only reason they did that, in case they wanted to bring Koba back, they would have the option, but no, Koba ended up staying dead, and he did not come back. So my guess is they probably did the same thing in this movie, where they don't know yet if he's coming back, so they just wanted to give themselves that wiggle room and give that possibility. So we'll see. And then number 2, why do you think there isn't a lot of mixed apes shown? Eagle Clan is only chimps, possibly one wandering orangutan, and of course only one gorilla. Yeah, I don't really know why there aren't more apes. That was actually a question that I was wondering myself when more people brought it up. But yeah, I want to see more. I want to see more gorillas. I want to see more orangutans, and I don't really know why they are so chimp focused. My only guess, and this is more just like a general movie thing, is that I think because chimps are much more similar to humans in terms of how they look and their facial structure and their eyes being a little more expressive. I think because they are a little more human-like, the people that make the movies feel that it's a bit easier for us as audiences to relate to them and to be able to latch onto them because they are more similar to us. So that's my guess as to why we see predominantly chimps in these movies. And also, when you look at the original Planet of the Apes movies, they were also very chimp heavy. They did have more orangutans and they did have more gorillas, but they were very chimp heavy. So I don't know if that's exactly the reason why, but that would be my guess as to why we're mainly seeing just chimps as the main characters and not a huge mix of other types of apes. I hope that changes in the next movie. There have been some really great gorilla characters. There's of course been some great orangutan characters as well. So I do want to see that further explored in the future movies, but we will see. And final question before I move on to the non-kingdom related questions. Do you think Noah will end up fighting May's people in the sequel? I personally would like to see Noah knock their leader down a peg. On the other hand, that might really kick off the war. In the next movie, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see that in the next movie. In the third movie, potentially, but in the next movie, I don't know if they're going to jump right to the human-ape war, especially with the way this leaves off. It feels like Noah is starting to trust humans more and May is starting to trust apes more, so we'll see. I think they're going to more explore just ape and human relationship and the potential of peace. So I don't know. I really don't know. But again, that's something we've already kind of seen play out exactly like that. So I definitely think that's something that is going to happen at some point, but it may not. You never know. How many different individualized ape societies have formed? We know that Caesar began in Northern California, and I'm assuming that Noah's village was somewhere in coastal California. We also know that May's advanced human colony was in California, and they contacted somewhere in Indiana at the end of the film. I mean, there's not really any way to know, but I would assume there have been a lot that have been formed all over the world. Something that has been asked many times by fans is, when are we going to start seeing apes and ape civilizations in like other countries in Asia, in Africa? Like, it's a question that has not been answered yet, and I hope that we get to see some of that in these next few movies. But yeah, I don't really have an answer, obviously, but it's definitely something that I want to see answered. Hopefully that is where they're going, but we will see. All right, so moving on from all the kingdom questions, you are now safe from spoilers if you haven't seen the movie. First question up here is, will you ever do a video on the TV show or OG book? Yes and yes. I plan on doing both. I got a few questions like this, so I'll probably get into this a few more times. But yes, I'm going to do videos on both the TV shows, the animated show, and the 1974 live action show, as well as the original book and a bunch of other books. So I have so many reviews for so many different things planned. When those happen, I don't know yet. I will definitely be making announcements in the coming weeks or so about when things are going to happen. But for the time being, yes, they are going to happen. I know everyone keeps asking me about this, so yes, I promise they're coming. Do you have a favorite quote or quotes from any or each installment? Actually, you know what? Yes. I think the speech from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, Caesar's speech at the end of that movie, that is one of my favorite movie speeches in general. It's just some of my favorite bit of writing of all time. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely up there, if not my number one. Right off the top of my head, I'd have to really like look at a list and just think about it for a long time to come up with some others. But yeah, that's the one that I always think of when I think of some of my favorite dialogue from the Planet of the Apes movies. Would you ever think about covering non-movie material from the franchise, i.e. the animated series, The Last Frontier game, the live action series, books? Yes. All of those things are going to be covered. Like I said, I got this question like 4 or 5 times when I posted this, so you're going to hear me talk about this a few times. But yes, I will be covering all of these things. They will be in the near future. I promise it's coming. I'm curious what type of content you have on your roadmap now that you've thoroughly covered the first 9 movies and will soon have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes covered as well. Even with covering the animated series, do you think that new videos will become less frequent in the coming months? Really enjoying all your content. So I haven't really figured this out yet. For the next like month or two, it's going to be pretty consistent. I will be putting out videos at least once or twice a week. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, also the other thing is, once the sequel gets officially announced, if it gets announced, that will also pave the way for more videos leading up to that movie. But yeah, I literally have a spreadsheet with, I think, currently like 75 different topics and different videos that I want to make. So, and I also have a list of just other ideas that I have for videos. So I have a lot of stuff I want to cover. So as far as like frequency, it's not going to become a thing where I'm putting out one video a month or anything like that. So don't worry, this is not going to become a dead channel, but it will probably slow down a bit over the summer and over the rest of the year. But it won't be something where I'm putting out like one video a month or something. It'll probably be closer to like 3, maybe 4 or 5 videos a month, but it won't be as heavy as something like this month or last month where I'm putting out 2 to 3 videos every single week. So, but yeah, I will still be putting out videos on a fairly consistent basis. I'm trying to figure out if I can do some sort of regular schedule right now. I have a regular job as well as doing this, so it's kind of hard to maneuver all of that, but I am trying to figure all that out right now. I'm just in the planning stages now that all the movies are out and I've gotten all the reviews done. So, but yeah, I'm getting to work on that now. So as soon as I know what that will look like, you will know what that's going to look like for sure. But don't worry, I've asked myself all these same questions and I'm trying to come up with what those answers are. Throughout all the films, which character's progression have you liked the most? Caesar. I think it's kind of hard to say anybody other than Caesar. Not the Roddy McDowell version, as much as I love that character. Andy Serkis is Caesar. I think, honestly, that goes beyond just these movies. I think the character progression of Andy Serkis's Caesar it's probably a top 5 character journey of all time. in any movie or television show or anything that I've ever seen. He's a phenomenal character in every single way. He's flawed, he's powerful, he's empathetic, he is beautifully acted. He's just such an incredibly layered character that's so well performed, and Andy Serkis deserved Oscars for that role. In the writing for him and the way that his character went about in the second and third movie, just the way they took him and the ideas that they had him grapple with and the things they had to have him overcome. I think all of these things were just so incredible and key to his journey being as successful and as memorable as it was. So yeah, Caesar, 100%. I know it's kind of the easy answer, but there's a reason for that. It's because he's the best character by far. Going to see Kingdom on Tuesday, so hyped. Been watching the trilogy all day today. Who are your favorite ape characters from Rise, Dawn, War, and Kingdom? Can you rank them and give your reasons why you like them, please? Thanking you in advance. Keep up the great work, and it's deeply appreciated. Take care. Thank you so much. I appreciate that very, very much. I can't give like a full ranking just off the top of my head. That's a video I do want to do, is just a full video ranking my top 10 or top 5 favorite characters from the rebooted series from Rise, Dawn, War, and Kingdom, or maybe just the Caesar trilogy by itself, and then maybe just another video with all of them combined. But off the top of my head, Caesar is my number one. I think he's most people's number one. You got to say Maurice, of course, he's up there. I really love Noah. I think he's great. Rocco would definitely be up there. Koba, of course. I'm a big fan of Malcolm from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I think he's great. The Colonel. There's a handful of characters I really love. I don't know how I rank them exactly, but yeah, I love them all. I think they're really great characters. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of like why, but yeah, just Koba, he's such a fantastic villain. He's so memorable. He's so iconic at this point. I already talked about Caesar in the last question. Maurice, just a loyal friend. The Colonel, I think he's just a really stone cold, terrifying villain. Noah's a really lovable, loyal, noble young hero that I'm excited to see where they take him. So there's just a lot of characters that I've really grown to like and appreciate. And yeah, I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I will definitely be doing a full-on ranking video talking about these characters and how I rank them and which ones make my top 5, top 10, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I will definitely be doing that in the near future. What's next for the channel? Also looking forward to the Steelbook and potential concept art book. A review of those for the channel sounds great. I will definitely be doing a review of those when they come out. I don't know if they are doing a concept art book. I know that I saw Wes Ball talking about it with some concept artists on Twitter or something. And then as for the Steelbook, I'm a physical media guy, at least for movies that I'm really passionate about. So yes, when that comes out, I will be getting it. And then I'll of course be rebuying it again when the trilogy box set comes out in 7 years from now. But yeah, I'll definitely be doing reviews of those for sure, if and when they come out. Then as for what's next for the channel, I kind of talked about this already, but I'm going to be doing reviews for the TV shows, for a bunch of the books, potentially the comic books, although that's kind of lower on my priority list just because I'm not a huge comic book guy, at least not anymore. But yeah, that's something I want to get into. Of course, I want to do some of the video games. I actually want to do a full-on playthrough, at least Last Frontier, if not all the video games. I know there's only like 2 or 3, but I do want to do that. There's a lot of topics that I want to discuss. There are full-on discussion videos I want to do. They're just random kind of, opinions that I have about Planet of the Apes and maybe like hot takes and stuff that I just want to dedicate full-on videos to. So I have so many ideas for videos that I haven't fully organized yet, but there's a lot of stuff that's coming for the channel over the next year and beyond that. And then of course also coverage of potentially the next movie that comes out. So a lot of stuff is coming. Don't know exactly what or when it will be, but I will know for sure very, very soon. Have you thought about doing new types of video formats? I would love to watch an iceberg video where the tip of the iceberg ranges from general knowledge about Caesar trilogy and the original 68 film and going deeper and more obscure with cancel plans for an Apes film in the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger and a video human hybrid ape character as well. I love your videos and they are amazing when I just watch to pass the time and Apes Together Strong. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And that's actually a video I'm going to make at some point, is talking about all the different iterations of Planet of the Apes that got canceled and never got made. So that's a video that I want to get into. And yeah, doing videos just focused on the Caesar trilogy and, exploring different ideas from the 68 film. Yeah, there are tons of things that I've already thought of that I have kind of just on a list somewhere of what I could do, what it's going to be about. I have to figure all that out right now. But yes, I have a lot of ideas for what I want to talk about on this channel. So like I've said before, I will know exactly what I'm going to be doing in the near future, and you will start to see some of those other ideas starting to roll out in the coming weeks and months. Who's your favorite character from the Planet of the Apes franchise? I've said it already, but Andy Serkis is Caesar. I think he's one of the greatest characters of all time, just beyond Planet of the Apes. I think he's one of the greatest characters in the history of film and television ever. And so yeah, Caesar, it's not even close. I saw this from another comment, but found it fascinating. If we get to movies 6 through 9 and closer to the original 1968 timeline, what would you think of a movie focused on or featuring a young Dr. Zaius, or even as a standalone film? I loved that idea. A young Dr. Zaius movie? I don't know, honestly. If they were to do a Zaius movie, or any kind of like Zaius focused thing. I would rather it be like a novel. I don't necessarily think we need a full-on movie like that. And also I think that we've kind of moved past the era of focusing on those original characters from those original 5 movies. Now, of course, if what you mean is like introducing a new version of Dr. Zaius for this timeline, then I don't necessarily think we need a full-on movie focused on him, but having him be a part of whatever that next trilogy is, that would be interesting. I think that would be not a bad way to go at all. I think seeing what that character was in his younger years, maybe seeing how he got to being where he is, that's definitely possible. Maybe that's kind of the arc that they explore in the next trilogy in a way. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's definitely an idea that could be cool. I just don't think I need a full-on movie focused on him. But yeah, I would love to see Dr. Zaius in some form. Beneath the Planet of the Apes is considered one of the lesser entries in the original series. Do you think future installments in the current continuity will take inspiration from the sequel? For example, a completely nihilistic conclusion, destroying the Earth, or psycho-mutated humans? I've seen some people speculating about this, and honestly, I don't know. I think that going in the direction of mutant humans is possible, but I really don't know if they're going to take full-on inspiration, going full-on dark, really depressing, nihilistic endings similar to Beneath the Planet of the Apes or Escape or Conquest. I don't know if they're going to go that direction, go that dark with it, but I would definitely be all for it if they did. I think it would be almost refreshing to see that in modern blockbusters, but because it is a modern blockbuster similar to Rise, Dawn, and War, I just don't think we're going to go that far, but you never know. What are other franchises you like besides Planet of the Apes? And have you seen the Planet of the Apes TV show cartoon? So first question, favorite franchise besides Planet of the Apes. So my favorite franchise of all time is actually Star Wars. It's not Planet of the Apes. Very close behind that is Planet of the Apes. But my number one since I was very young has been Star Wars. I also grew up as a big Harry Potter fan. Not as huge into Harry Potter now as I was when I was younger, but I do still love it. Lord of the Rings, of course, is one of the great trilogies of all time. I'm a huge Back to the Future fan as well. And Halloween, the slasher horror franchise, is a kind of a guilty pleasure of mine in a way, but I love at least half those movies, even though the other half are kind of terrible, but I really love those movies. I'm also kind of a big horror junkie in general, so I love those 70s and 80s slashers. But yeah, those are some of the franchises that I'm really big on and really love. And then have you seen the Planet of the Apes TV show or cartoon? So I've seen a handful of episodes of the TV show. I think I actually saw like the first 5 or 6 episodes when they were running them on AMC back in 2008 or 2009 or something, and then I never got to see the rest of it. I think I like DVR'd them and then forgot to DVR the rest, or they got deleted or something, so I never got to finish it. And then the cartoon, I think I've seen like a couple of scenes from an episode here and there, but I've never seen a full episode or the full show. So again, those are things I'm going to be covering on the channel. I'm going to be giving them all rewatches and doing proper reviews. So but yeah, I haven't seen either of them in full. Will we see the original film remade for modern audiences, this completing the saga right? I don't know, but I hope so. I think, and maybe not necessarily a full-on remake, but a reimagining and a retelling of that kind of story, or maybe a story that leads right up to that moment in time, you know. But I definitely think it's possible that that's where this all leads, is a remake of Planet of the Apes. And maybe, for all we know, they do those 9 movies and then they actually end it with a 10th movie that is that remake or reimagining of Planet of the Apes. So we'll see. But yeah, me personally, that's where I want them to go. I know other people don't, but that's just me. Do pineapples belong on pizza? No, they do not. I'm kidding. Put whatever you want on your pizza. I don't really care. But if you're asking me, no, pineapples do not belong on pizza. You got to keep in mind, I grew up with traditional New York style pizza. Anything outside of that, I just think is mid-tier at best. If you're talking about like gourmet pizza, certain types, sure, put pineapple on it, whatever, that's fine. But real pizza, no, pineapple does not belong anywhere near that. What's your background? Were you good at school? What did you study at college? Did you always want to do YouTube videos, or have you been interested in writing, directing movies, or anything like that? All right, starting with the first question, what's your background? So I went to school for film and video production and digital media, and I enjoyed it very much. As for was I good at school? When it comes to the film side of things, yes, I was very good. I thought I was a pretty solid student, and I enjoyed it very much. As for everything else in school, no, I was a terrible student. I hated learning, I hated math, I hated English, I hated all those subjects that were boring to me, and I was not good at them. I was awful at tests, so I was not good at school at all. I hated it. Really, I just liked going to school to see my friends and go to band practice, but beyond that, I didn't like school at all. And then, did you always want to do YouTube videos, or have you been interested in writing, directing movies, or anything like that? So, like I said, I went to school for film and digital media, and I actually, way back when I was younger, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think at one point I wanted to be a film director, then I wanted to be a producer, then I wanted to be an editor, and I think the editor thing is something that I still might want to pursue one day. And also, I like writing, but I also hate writing, and anyone who does write understands what I mean by that. Writing is something that is incredibly fun and it's incredibly rewarding. It's also soul-crushing and time-consuming and stressful, so I love it, but I hate it. And the same kind of goes for directing and producing in a way. I've made a handful of short films. I actually made a Star Wars fan film and a Halloween fan film a few years ago, and I'm still very proud of both. And I've done a handful of other short films as well, some horror short films, some comedy short films. So I do like making stuff. I love being creative. I love filmmaking. I love being in that creative role and being collaborative with other people. It's just something that really can take a toll on you if the experience is not great. And I've had a handful of not great experiences doing that kind of stuff. So, but when it's a great experience, it's really rewarding, and I do love it. It makes me want to do it more. And no, I didn't always want to do YouTube videos. YouTube is something that I've always just admired and appreciated other people doing. So when I eventually started this channel, it was really just me watching and observing how others have done it for so many years and taking what I've learned, and then also taking some of my video production background and applying that. So it kind of just became this thing that I find myself really enjoying in a way where I can do what I want to do. I wouldn't say it's being super creative because I'm kind of just talking about other people's movies, but I do enjoy it, and it kind of has that same aspect and kind of scratches that itch a bit for me. But yeah, writing and directing and editing movies is something that I was always fascinated by and I've always loved. And whether or not I get into it, like as a try to kind of dip my toe back in that water one day, I don't know. I'm really of the belief that there's no wrong time to do it. So if I want to wait 10 to 15 years and maybe try it when I'm in my 40s, I could do that. If I want to try it in 5 years, I could do that too. You know, there's no real wrong time. So I'm not in a rush. But yeah, it's something that I still think about doing one day. But for the time being, I'm perfectly content doing this as well as my other job that I do. So it's something that I'd love to pursue maybe one day, but for the time being, I'm fine where I'm at. Say Maurice is fat. I just did. So there you go. Can't wait for the Q&A. If this reboot series is lucky enough to become a 9-film saga with 3 trilogies, what do you think that the potential 3rd trilogy would be about? Personally, I think that if there's another massive time jump to bring it closer to the events of the original film, it would be cool to me if that 3rd trilogy told the story of the lawgiver, had the lawgiver, the orangutan, be the main protagonist of that 3rd trilogy, and how he rose to become the figure we know him as. Personally, I don't know if that's the direction exactly they're going to go, having the 3rd movie be about the lawgiver. Honestly, I think this movie kind of established that Caesar is the lawgiver. I mean, Rocca straight up calls him our original lawgiver, so I think the whole question about who the lawgiver in this new timeline is kind of set in stone at this point. It's Caesar. So I don't think they're going to go that direction. As for what I would want them to do with the next trilogy, I can't really give a full answer until I see how this current trilogy plays out, but based on where I kind of assume it might go, I just have a feeling the next one might be more human driven, might be a human protagonist, with this trilogy being an ape and human and the first trilogy being just an ape. I think going full human with the next one could be possible. As for what it's about, when exactly it's going to take place, I don't know. I think at least 1,000 years. I think you got to go at least 1,000 years in the future and really advance ape civilization to more along the lines of what we know from the original movie. I think it's completely up in the air at this point where they could go. But yeah, I think it would be really cool to see just how far ape society can go about 1,000+ years in the future, to see a different kind of story told there that is no longer ape versus human conflict. The ape versus human stuff is always going to be there, and I wouldn't expect it to go away, but I think the apes fully having the upper advantage once and for all is where it would eventually go. So what that actually entails and what story they can tell there, I don't really know, but that's kind of the direction I think they should go with it. Anyone know if Disney will have an action figure line for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? I do not know. They did not have any, as far as I know, for War. They did do some for Dawn, but I don't think they sold very well, which is I think why they didn't do any for War. So I might be wrong about that. Someone could check me and tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think they're doing any for Kingdom. I don't know that for sure, but maybe that might change depending on demand and how well the movie does. But I also don't think the action figure, it's just not as much of an in-demand thing today as it was 20 years ago when it comes to big franchise movies. So I don't really know. Maybe if the movie does really well, people keep going to see it, then maybe they might make some for the next movie. So who knows? If you were in charge of designing a Planet of the Apes theme park at Disney World a la Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, what would it look like? So actually, I don't know if any of you guys know this, but there actually were plans for a park in, I want to say it was Disneyland, India. I might be wrong. And maybe it was Dubai. I don't remember. It was in another country. It wasn't in Disney World or Disneyland, California. It wasn't in one of those two, but I'll have to find it. And I might actually do a video on this at some point, but there was actually plans and concept art was made for a Planet of the Apes theme park that looked pretty cool. I'd have to find it and kind of give my full thoughts on it. But if I were doing one, I don't really know what I'd do as far as rides. I mean, I think there's a ride at the Harry Potter University Universal Park, whatever it's called, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I think there's a ride where it just takes you throughout Hogwarts Castle and on this journey and all the kind of stuff. And so maybe something similar to that, where they just take you on this journey through ape civilizations and ape colonies, and maybe there's this little story they come up with, and it's kind of like not a VR, but like a simulation type of thing with a little bit of a ride. So I don't really know, but yeah, it could be something like that. I don't really know what kind of attractions you could really make out of Planet of the Apes, but you could definitely do some really cool environment stuff. There's some exciting things you could create in terms of like the world and the actual like walking through stuff, and animatronics could be really cool to see. So that I would be all for, but as for what the actual attractions could be, that I'm not really sure. Have you read any of the Planet of the Apes comics, particularly any of the ones released by Boom in the 2000s? If you have, what did you think of them? No, I have not read any of them. I have not read a single Planet of the Apes comic, whether it be the Marvel ones, the Boom ones, any of the early 70s or 80s or 90s ones. Like, I haven't read any Planet of the Apes comics. I want to at some point. I'm focused on novels and video games and TV shows at first, and then I'll get to comics, just because it's just more towards the bottom of my priority list. But I am going to get to them. I am curious to see what kind of stories are told. If any of you have any suggestions of maybe where to start, I don't really know where to start because there's a lot of stuff. I know there's a Wikia page that can kind of just walk me through everything, but I'd like to know maybe where you guys might suggest starting. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. Greetings, Josh. Okay, as far as fictional tribes in modern movies go, would you rather be a Na'vi in Avatar or an ape in Eagle Clan? Probably an ape in Eagle Clan, only because the Na'vi are always getting messed with. They're always getting attacked. And also, I don't want to have to plug into a tree. Like, all that spiritual stuff is just too much for me. And apes in Eagle Clan, outside of them getting attacked in Kingdom, they seem to live a pretty chill life and don't really have much going on. And also they get a bunch of pet birds. So that's fun. So yeah, I'd rather be an ape in the Eagle Clan. Will you be doing videos reviewing the TV show, animated TV show, or the video games, either Crisis on the Planet of the Apes or Planet of the Apes Last Frontier? Yes, I will be doing videos on all of those things. Like I said, I will be making announcements about when soon, but I don't know exactly when. But I will be covering all of that stuff in the near future. Why do you think that 20th Century Fox got scared of doing a sequel to Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake despite it making a lot of money at the box office, and why? It sometimes seems studios get cold feet from doing a sequel to poorly received movies like this in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake as well, which I like. I actually didn't mind the Elm Street remake too. So I actually think it's better than a handful of those sequels. But as for the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes remake, I don't really know, honestly. I don't really have an answer for you. If I had to guess, it was probably just because the reception was so bad and Tim Burton's experience on it was so bad, and most of the people involved in it really seemed to just not have that great of an experience, that I wonder if maybe they were just like, if we put more money into this, it will just lose us money. It's not worth the investment. That's my only guess, really. But I don't know. You'd think that with the money they made, they could have maybe just learned from their mistakes and made a better movie, maybe gotten a different director, maybe just taken an extra year or two and really cranked out a really good script. But I think it all worked out for the best. I think that we ended up with a bit of a break between Planet of the Apes movies, and then we got the new trilogy, and now we have Kingdom, and I think that is much more exciting than anything that could have come out of that remake. So I think ultimately worked out for the best. Have you read the Pierre Boulle novel that launched Planet of the Apes? No, I have not, but I plan on reading it, and I will be doing a review for it as soon as I read it. Can you plan on doing a video on the canceled Planet of the Apes movies and scripts in the future? Yes, that is 100% a video, or actually multiple videos I will probably be doing at some point in the future. When? I don't know, but yes, there's so many canceled and almost what if kind of Planet of the Apes movies, and also there's just early versions of scripts that did get made. So yeah, there's so many different types of Planet of the Apes movies that we've never seen that I absolutely want to cover on this channel, so I will get to those at some point in the future. Would you like to see a hard R-rated Planet of the Apes kind of like with the Hellboy 2019 and Punisher Warzone, to where it's crazy and overbloated and just pure insanity? Or do you think it works fine as a PG-13 movie? I have zero interest in seeing an R-rated or hard R-rated Planet of the Apes movie. That just does not appeal to me whatsoever. I think hard R has its place, and Planet of the Apes is just not that place. So no, I think it works perfectly fine as a PG-13 movie. It is not that kind of franchise at all, and I think going in that direction would be honestly one of the biggest mistakes they could ever make. So no, I think PG-13 for Planet of the Apes is just fine. Do you think in future movies the apes will wear clothes like in the original movies? Yes. Maybe not by the end of this trilogy, but maybe perhaps if they do make that third trilogy, that's where I could see them starting to wear clothes like in the original movie, wearing those uniforms, those green kind of outfits that they have with the chimpanzees and the orange with the orangutans and so on. So yeah, I do think they will get to that point if they continue making movies, but it's not going to be in this trilogy. I think it would be in the next one. What's your favorite species of great ape? Chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, and orangutans. Probably chimps. I think chimpanzees are just really cool animals. I've always had an admiration for them. I also really like gorillas. I think they're just really cool. But yeah, chimpanzees I think are fascinating, very smart, very interesting and kind animals that I think it's part of the reason I like these movies so much. Is just because I love apes in general. I think they're some of the coolest and most fascinating animals on the planet. So yeah, chimpanzees for sure. Would you ever consider doing a collection video showing off all of your Planet of the Apes items? Well, while I would, the problem is I don't really have many Planet of the Apes items. Personally, I'm just not much of a collector. I don't buy stuff. I don't buy toys. I don't buy, collector's items and stuff like that. The only thing I really buy is just physical media like Blu-rays and occasionally like super rare editions of DVDs. But no, I don't really have any items. Maybe I might start collecting some in the future. And if I do, then yeah, I would totally do a video showing off and going into detail on all of them. But yeah, for the time being, I don't really have much to show off. When Kingdom comes out on Blu-ray, and maybe at some point if they ever do like another box set of the original movies, which I think they might have actually released one a few years ago, maybe I might get that. But if they ever do something like that again, or hopefully if they ever release the original movies in 4K, I might do a review of that collection and maybe anything else I acquire by then. But no, I don't really have much to show off in terms of Planet of the Apes collection stuff. But if I ever do, yes, I will totally do a video on it. And finally, the last comment to come in before the cutoff, and I think this is a good place to end. Someone just says, well earned. Thank you so much. And I think that's a great place to leave things off. So unfortunately, I did not get to answer everybody's questions just because some of you sent them in a couple hours late or a day or two late. So if you did not get your question in on time, I apologize, but I do plan on doing another one of these videos probably when I hit 25,000 is probably my next milestone when I'll do this. So if I hit 25,000, I will do another one of these videos and you will be able to have another opportunity to ask questions then. I maybe even do like a live stream or something by that point, but I also just don't really like doing live streams. I feel like I would just ramble on and on. It would end up being like 4 hours long. Who knows? I don't really know what I'm going to do at that point. But like I said, you will have other opportunities to get your questions in, get your comments and things read off on my channel. But again, I just want to thank all of you so much for getting me to this point. You were the reason I got to interview Westball. You're the reason that this channel exists and is doing so well and is giving me the opportunities to make more and more videos and talk about all this stuff and talk about these movies and franchise that I love so much and getting more people into the Planet of the Apes series and building out this fan base and helping it grow and creating a real community. So none of this would be possible if not for you guys. So as much as I have done here, I couldn't do it without all of your help. I couldn't do it without your comments, your likes, your subscriptions. So keep it up. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm so thankful for everything that you've helped me do here. So with all that said, that kind of wraps everything up here today. Again, thank you so much. And like I said, I'm going to have a ton more stuff coming out in the coming weeks and months. I don't know when and what specifically is coming in the farther future, but for the next few weeks, I do kind of have that mapped out. So you'll see a handful of videos coming out over the next 2 or 3 weeks. But until then, thank you so much for checking out today's video here on Ape Nation. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. I'll catch you in the next one. So until then, goodbye.